Is there a recipe that is your go-to? Do you have a favorite thing that you love to make? I know one of the things that I personally love to make with my kids are smoothies. It is the best way to sneak some healthy things into something that tastes delicious. And I've kind of tried a bunch of different things over the years to add to my smoothies, right? I usually have yogurt, that's like a given, like specifically Greek vanilla yogurt's my fave. I usually have some kind of juice like orange juice, or we like to use like a tropical juice a lot of times. And then everything else just depends on what I can find in my house. Usually some frozen fruit. I like to add some veggies like spinach, kale, carrots. I've even added peas before to hide some peas in my smoothie. And then of course, things like avocado, bananas. There's so many different things, flaxseed, oatmeal that I've added to my smoothies. And I wanted to share one of my favorite ways to make a smoothie. So I thought it would be great to add an illustration for each of the objects that I add. So I started with the cup that held the smoothie first, and then I added pictures of all the ingredients around the outside that make my smoothie. So what are some things that you make? Maybe it's a drink like my smoothie. Maybe it's a dessert like chocolate chip cookies. Maybe it is a dinner like spaghetti and meatballs, or something as simple as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or s'mores. Whatever it is, can you illustrate it? Have you ever tried drawing the actual thing plus all of the ingredients that are used to make it? It's kind of a fun exercise. So my challenge for you is to see if you can make an illustrated recipe. Follow along as I make mine, and then I'll show you some examples of some that my students have done as well. So I have a piece of watercolor paper I am working on, and I've very lightly sketched into my design in with pencil, and now I'm going to go over it with a Sharpie. And I have my main food in the center of my picture, but you could definitely put it off-centered or a little bit to the top or the bottom of your picture. I decided for this one to go right in the middle, and then I'm adding all the way around my smoothie the different ingredients that I use in my smoothie. So I have a strawberry here. I have a little group of blueberries here because I like to start with my frozen fruits. And notice that I'm leaving a little bit of space in between each of my ingredients so that I can add the text to show how much of each ingredient that you put in. You can also leave some room if you want to actually add directions too. So I've got some spinach leaves, some avocado. I have a yogurt container that is a little bit open here for some yogurt. I have a little bottle here of orange juice that I kind of had to squeeze in on the side. And then up here, I'm going to just put some little oats that I add in as well. So unfortunately, when I make smoothies, I don't measure very well. So I'm going to have to kind of figure out kind of what the amount of each of these is as well. I also need to make sure to have the title of my recipe at the top or somewhere in a prominent location as well. So at this point, I am using my beautiful handwriting to put how much of each of the ingredients. I decided to go with some cursive writing. I thought that would look a little bit nicer, but you could use whatever text you would like to. And I am trying to figure out kind of where to put each of these. You could use a regular black Sharpie like I'm using, or feel free to use a colored Sharpie or colored text as well. But I'm going to go ahead and fill that in all the way around, showing how much of each of the items that I need for my recipe. And the reason I am using Sharpie is so that when I do add paint, the Sharpie won't run. So just make sure if you do use like a black pen that it's something that won't be affected by the water or the paint. I'm also now going to add some shading. So I wanted to kind of give a little bit more life to a lot of these things that are on my page here. So I am using some hatching and just to try to give a little bit more definition to some of these things. So just using some ink shading to make this a little bit fancier here. And I tend to work in a diagonal way here, but you can do kind of whatever type of shading you like. And yeah, trying to at least define some of these a little bit more to kind of bring them to life with the ink first before I get into the paint. And it's important again to use ink that is water resistant so that when I do add the paint, it won't run and get mixed in with whatever colors I add. But I'm just going to go around. I've kind of decided where my light is, and I'm going to try to I add some shading to each of my ingredients and to kind of all have the same light source as I work my way here around my paper, adding these little details just to kind of help bring my picture to life. At this point, I'm ready to paint. So I'm using watercolor paint, and I decided that I wanted to have a little bit of color in the background of my picture so that it's not just all white in the background. So I'm kind of adding this like swoop of kind of a pinkish color right behind my title, and then maybe I'll add kind of some excitement throughout the rest of my picture. So while that's drying, I can move to another area. I think I'm going to have a swoop of the same color on the bottom, just kind of to help frame my picture as I create it here. And then that way it kind of helps tie it together too with the color of my smoothie, which is also this kind of pinkish red color as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add that color in here. I'm kind of paying attention to highlights and trying to save some of the white here on my paper so that it looks like it's highlighted, and then make it look like it is an actual smoothie in a glass cup. As I paint, I'm just going to work my way around my picture, trying to make sure to kind of let things dry before getting into colors that are right next to each other so that I don't have any of my colors bleeding, but really trying to kind of push the color. And I can also use this watercolor to help shade as well. So here you have an example of my finished piece. Notice that I even added some splashes of color in the background too, just for fun, to tie in some of the other colors that I used in my picture. I hope you have fun with this and that you create a beautiful illustrated recipe as well. I will also include some of my student work too. Now for my students' work, they worked on a larger piece of paper so they could get quite a bit more detailed. I think it's a 12 by 18 piece, but they got very creative with their different recipes and their different styles. It was really fun to watch them come to life.